I told the barista at Starbucks next to my house. I don't get your fancy coffee talk. Just give me the two biggest cups of regular coffee. The young guy, probably in his early 20s, poured me the coffee after I paid in cash. He struggled a bit while giving me my change, looking annoyed because I didn't use a credit card like everyone else. Sue me for being old-fashioned, right? Anyway, I grabbed my two cups and headed to a quiet table in the back. As I sat there, a few minutes later, she walked in, my ex-wife, Tracy. Despite our history, I couldn't help but notice how good she looked for her age. About the same as me, but seeming 10 years younger. She must have hit the gym because she looked different, lost some weight. Her hair, perfectly styled as always, had that charm of gorgeous golden blonde. I didn't exactly jump up to greet her, but hey, she's lucky I agreed to meet her after 5 years of our divorce. I couldn't help but grumble about the coffee, asking her why she couldn't choose a normal place that makes real coffee. Instead of a warm greeting, that's what she got. She nervously smiled, sat down, and began talking quietly. She said she didn't want to fight, and just needed closure. She admitted she messed up and I could feel she wanted to say more. But that was a start. I realized it back then, and I'm sure about it now. I took you for granted. Really took you for granted. I turned your kindness into weakness. I made it all about me because, well, I guess I was just being selfish, admitted Tracy. Now, in the evenings, I sit alone in my apartment, watching something on TV. I can't even tell you what's on. I'm by myself with no one to talk to. Ben, I miss our conversations so much. I miss the sound of your voice, no matter what you're talking about. I miss all those little things, the touches, the occasional smiles. I always thought we'd be together until the end, even after what I did. I thought we'd still be together for many years to come. I didn't interrupt her. I let her express what had been building up inside her for a long time. I just listened. I never, not for a minute, thought I'd get caught. I fell for someone good at charming. She hesitated, and then corrected herself. No, not exactly true. Yes, he was charming, but I didn't fall for it. I went after him willingly because I was stupid, a selfish idiot. Tracy shared all this while staring at her coffee cup, never looking at me. As she paused, bringing the cup to her lips, I stared at her in silence. How many times in our 27 years of marriage had I kissed those still beautifully contoured lips? I faltered when I suddenly realized she was waiting for a response, looking at me. You wanted to meet, and now you're telling your story, I said. I've tried to see you many times since you filed for divorce. Why agree to it now? She asked, putting the cup back on the table. It took me this long to be able to talk to you without wanting to strangle you, I honestly replied. I loved you with all my soul, and maybe I still do a little. You betrayed my love. For what? Cheap thrills? You've had your fill. Besides losing your love, you betrayed my trust. What did I do to deserve this? I asked, a question that haunted me for a long time. Nothing, she quietly answered. It's not your fault. It happened because of me. It's on me. I wish I could pretend I'm done with this part of my life and didn't need answers. Yes, I wish I could pretend I left it all behind. But that's far from the truth. They say the opposite of love isn't hate, but indifference. I haven't overcome my hatred, but I'm on my way to indifference. All right, tell me how it happened, and more importantly, tell me why it happened, I said, pushing my barely sipped coffee aside and continuing our conversation, a few years late. Why is simple, she began with a sigh. I had just turned 50, and was feeling a little old, a little unwanted. It sneaks into your life so subtly, seemingly unnoticed. In recent years, when I walked into a room, men's heads didn't turn as often. I know, she added quickly. You've always told me I'm the most beautiful to you. But sometimes, we women want to be appreciated by others. I think Edward saw that I needed him, Tracy continued after a short pause. We were co-workers for a long time, just talking occasionally. But suddenly, he became my best friend. We started talking almost every day, and our conversations got deeper and more personal. Edward was good-looking, and many single women from the office had gone on dates with him, giving him high marks. I knew he was a bit of a player, but I thought I was in control. Well, turns out, I was wrong. So, just like that, you picked up and threw her away? I asked, feeling my stomach twist into a tight, cold knot. Well, it didn't happen that fast, she answered. We had lunch a few times. Dinner once or twice. When I told you I was working late, many times we just had coffee. I knew where he was going with his game and I still went along. How long has this been going on, Tracy? I wheezed through a suddenly dry throat. About a year, I guess, she answered. When he finally got me into bed, it was exciting. He was new, different from you, and it felt so wrong. I guess that's why I got over my guilt quickly. Besides, since you didn't suspect anything, how could it hurt you? And it's not like I ever gave you less, and I've never done anything to him that I wouldn't do to you. Tracy sighed again, pulling the napkin from its holder and squeezing it in her fingers. I know it sounds corny, Ben, but it was really just sex. Yes, we had fun, but love wasn't even in question. There never was. So, you're saying that your fun in bed outweighed our marriage vows? Just perfect. I grinned wryly. Things were going pretty smoothly, and you wouldn't have known anything if it hadn't been for that nerd on the block, she said with undisguised annoyance. If it weren't for him, we'd still be married, and we'd both be much happier. Why couldn't we just go back to when things were good between us? I was only able to catch it because my retired neighbor, Ralph Gordon, called me one day to report that my wife and some unknown man had entered my house in the middle of the day, and he thought it looked pretty strange. After getting a signal, I rushed to my car. 20 minutes later, I caught Tracy and Edward cheating in my marital bed. I interrupted their secret meeting by hitting the back of his head with my fist, causing both heads to collide like billiard balls, giving them concussions. I yelled at them for about 5 minutes, then gave the guy a final hearty kick before slamming the door. Whether I found out or not, what I did was a betrayal. By the way, what happened to your lover after I left? I asked. Tracy raised the cup to her lips, flinching for a moment as she noticed my intense stare. A few months later, he left her for someone else, younger and prettier. I told you it was just sex, not love, she struggled to say. Yeah, just a recreational thing with someone else's wife, I replied. She looked away, staring at the ceiling fan. Did I deserve such disrespect from you? I questioned. No, you didn't, she whispered. I got up and brought us a second cup of over-roasted bitter coffee, a fitting match for our conversation. Over the past 5 years, Tracy and I had portrayed mutual affability at family events. But I'd never been alone with her, or engaged in conversation. At times, I felt the urge to vent my emotions almost every minute of the day. Surprisingly, I didn't miss Tracy in the bedroom. In 27 years of marriage, I had never looked lustfully at other women. Unaware of the dating scene for men over 50, I was surprised when single women started appearing, seemingly out of thin air. There were more single ladies over 50 than men, and many men over 50 gravitated toward younger women, limiting choices for single women over 50. Being decent and sociable favored men who weren't afraid to meet and talk to women. Over the past 5 years, I had a variety of female companionship, and I had a choice between short-term and long-term connections. Who would have thought? Not every woman was looking for her next husband. Some of my new female friends and even some men just wanted to add some variety to their lives. I dated both types. My goal wasn't necessarily to find the next Mrs. Ben Arniston, but I wouldn't mind if a lady worthy of it magically appeared. One thing was out of the question: Tracy Arniston returning to my life. Been there, done that, ripped my heart out, and adorned my t-shirt with the trophy. Why are you alone, Tracy? I asked with surprise. You still look great. Finding a man shouldn't be a problem for you, and you're obviously not shy about meeting men. She gasped, and I felt ashamed for insulting her. Actually, I didn't mean it that way. And you know it, I corrected. Tracy snorted but had to admit I was right. Maybe I don't want to date another man. Maybe I've realized I've already met the right man. Lost him, but now I want him back, she said. It took all my self-control not to raise my voice. You're a smart woman, Tracy. Don't you ever think about what would happen if you got caught? I growled. No, I never thought I'd be caught. We shouldn't have brought it into our house. It was a mistake. The only time we ever did it there. Edward had been encouraging me to do it in our bed for weeks. Your bed. I knew what he wanted. I finally gave in to his persuasion. Now looking back, I think Ralph was just being a good friend when he told you about me. Many people wouldn't have gotten involved. Tracy paused, waiting for my reaction, but didn't expect a response. She sighed and continued her confession. In the cold light of day, I'm sorry doesn't even come close to what I'm feeling. I've been so stupid and arrogant. But Ben, I want you back. I need you. Please, Ben. I'll beg if I have to. Her voice was close to a sob, desperation in it. I shook my head, showing only a small amount of sympathy for her obvious brokenness. Tracy scrutinized my face for my answer. My words weren't triumphant or seeking revenge. Please, Tracy, don't embarrass us both. How about you put my feelings ahead of your own for now? Exactly what you should have done 5 years ago. Actions have consequences. Alas, you've forgotten that, I quipped. Tracy sniffled, tears threatening to roll from her eyes. You're right, she said, and the hope in her eyes faded. I won't bother you anymore. There was a time when that wistful look would have prompted me to stand up and take her into a heartfelt embrace. I felt a pang of pain for both of us as I watched her walk out of the coffee shop without waiting for a reaction. I watched Tracy's silhouette walk away, and then saw the door close behind her for another long moment. A stylish woman in her 50s approached my table, placing a cup of salted caramel latte in front of me. I know you're not a fan of our coffee, but I want you to leave on a delicious note, she said with a bright smile. Just in case, she asked if I hadn't told her about our past, as she didn't want to completely break her soul. There was a time when I wanted to destroy her, but someone convinced me I was better than that. Though I still have my doubts, I replied with an involuntary smile. As she rounded the table, she sat on my lap, wrapped an arm around my neck and gave me a soft kiss. I discreetly noticed the wedding ring on her left hand. Sandy Caruso and I would be married in 2 months. I have no doubts. Unlike the last Mrs. White, Ben Arniston, this good man will always come first in my life, she said with conviction. Having experienced losing someone close, she emphasized always putting her man first, giving me another loving kiss. I spotted a few cafe employees smirking as they saw me kissing their boss in the background. They hadn't met me before because, as I mentioned, I don't drink Starbucks coffee despite having a crush on the franchise owner. Karma wasn't on my mind much until I met Sandy on a bike ride 2 years ago. After my divorce, I picked up biking for some cardio workouts. I suggested Tracy and I ride together before, but she wasn't interested. Riding solo, I occasionally joined group rides with fellow health enthusiasts. Admittedly, I wasn't great at finding signposts, and during one ride, I got lost. A woman pulled up and asked if I was on the ride. When I said yes, she chuckled melodiously. The fit stranger told me I missed the right turn a half-mile back and needed to turn around. Following her instructions, as I turned my bike, she was right in front of me. I was thrilled watching her, her stunning figure in stretchy spandex bike shorts, pedaling vigorously. She stood up from the saddle, commanding me to stop staring at her and catch up so we could talk like adults while riding. For the next 36 miles we rode together at a relaxed pace, sharing stories about our lives. I opened up about my cheating wife, and she shared about her late husband who died of cancer. We both discussed our grown children. Each of us had 2, and our grandchildren. Sandy had 3, while I had only 1 so far. Our ride that day covered 52 miles, surpassing my previous longest ride of 35 miles. With such a captivating partner, the miles flew by. Despite sore leg muscles, we had a date the next night, and 2 weeks later, our relationship became exclusive. On our 4th date, we shared a bed. My days as an older single playboy were over. A life filled with new colors and experiences lay ahead, accompanied by the love of a wonderful lady who made my heart beat again.